The night smelled like wet asphalt and trouble. Jake's fingers twitched near his pocket. Just a reflex, really, but the kind you only get when you know something's about to go very, very wrong. The notebook in Lena's jacket wasn't just paper and ink. It was a death warrant if the wrong people got their hands on it. And judging by the heavy footsteps closing in from the alley, those wrong people were already here. Lena shot him a look, half warning, half wild grin, as she cracked her knuckles. You thinking what I'm thinking? Jake exhaled, sharp and humorless. That we're about to have a really bad night? A shadow lunged. Lena moved faster. And just like that, the chase was on. Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now. Hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. Alright, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the sleepy town of Briarwood, where dew-kissed grass shimmered like scattered diamonds. A crisp breeze carried the scent of freshly baked bread from the local bakery, mingling with the distant chatter of early risers. Near the town square, a young woman with fiery red hair and a determined stride nearly collided with a burly man carrying a crate of apples. "Watch where you're going, Elias," she snapped, sidestepping just in time to avoid a toppling pile of fruit. The man chuckled, adjusting his grip on the crate. "Ah, Lyra, always in a hurry. What's got your boots on fire this time?" Lyra rolled her eyes, but couldn't suppress a smirk. "Unlike some people, I don't have all day to loaf around. The Blackthorn job won't finish itself." Elias raised an eyebrow. "You're still chasing that old tale? Everyone knows the Blackthorn ruins are cursed. Even the rats avoid the place. Which is why the pay's good." Lyra shot back, patting the dagger at her hip. "Besides, curses are just stories to scare kids and fools." Elias shook his head. "Famous last words, my friend. Just don't come crying to me when some ghostly hand grabs your ankle." Lyra laughed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. "If it does, I'll introduce it to the business end of my blade." She turned to leave, but paused when a sudden commotion erupted nearby. A scrawny boy with wide, panicked eyes skidded to a halt in front of her, gasping for breath. "Lyra, you gotta come quick. It's old man Harlow. He's been robbed." Lyra's playful demeanor vanished in an instant. "What? Who'd be stupid enough to rob Harlow? The man's got nothing but cobwebs and bad temper." The boy shook his head frantically. "Not just robbed, they took the chest, the one he always kept locked." A cold knot formed in Lyra's stomach. Harlow's chest was the stuff of local legend. Rusted iron, covered in strange markings and rumored to hold something far worse than gold. She exchanged a glance with Elias, whose usual joviality had drained away. "Looks like your ghostly hand just showed up," he muttered. Lyra clenched her fists. "Where's Harlow now?" "At the tavern," the boy said. "He's hurt bad, Lyra. Keeps muttering about them coming back." Without another word, Lyra broke into a sprint, her boots pounding against the cobblestones. The town blurred around her as her mind raced. Whoever had taken that chest had no idea what they'd unleashed, and she'd be damned if she let Briarwood pay the price for their stupidity. Behind her, Elias called out, "Wait, you can't just—" Ah, hells. He dropped the crate with a thud and took off after her, apples rolling forgotten into the gutter. The game was on, and Lyra had never been one to lose. Chapter 2. The crowd's laughter echoed through the arena like thunder, a chorus of alien jeers bouncing off the steel walls. Marcus Riker stood motionless, his boots sinking slightly into the blood-stained sand. The Crothian warrior across from him snorted, his massive tusks glistening with saliva as he cracked his knuckles. "You hear that, soft skin?" the Crothian growled, his voice like grinding stones. "They're laughing at you, at your weak, fleshy body." Marcus rolled his shoulders, his fingers flexing around the hilt of his plasma knife. "Yeah, I hear it. Sound a lot like the noise my toaster makes before it burns my breakfast." The Crothian blinked, then let out a booming laugh. "You amuse me, human. I'll make your death quick." Dahlia Vexus leaned against the railing of the observation deck, her violet eyes locked onto Marcus. She tilted her head, intrigued. Either he's got a death wish, or he knows something we don't. Beside her, the Zinther gladiator, Raxer, scoffed. He's dead. Crothians don't leave scraps behind. The announcer's voice boomed, metallic and grand. Let the trial of the unbroken begin. The Crothian charged, his massive feet kicking up sand as he barreled toward Marcus like a living battering ram. The crowd roared, hungry for the kill. Marcus didn't move. Dahlia's fingers tightened around the railing. What is he? At the last possible second, Marcus sidestepped, fluid as smoke. The Crothian's momentum carried him forward, his claws swiping at empty air. Before the beast could react, Marcus drove his plasma knife deep into the nerve cluster just beneath the Crothian's ribcage, a weakness only those who had studied their enemies would know. The Crothian stiffened, his yellow eyes widening in shock. Then, like a felled tree, he crashed face first into the sand. Silence. Then the crowd erupted. Marcus yanked his blade free, wiping the glowing blue blood on his pants. He glanced up at the observation deck, locking eyes with Dahlia. He gave her a lazy salute. Raxer's forearms tensed. That was no fluke. Dahlia smirked. No, it wasn't. Down in the arena, the announcer's voice crackled with excitement. Unbelievable. The human lives. Who dares challenge him next? A hulking Zurian, his scales glinting like polished emeralds, stepped forward, cracking his whip-like tail. I'll peel his skin off slowly. Marcus sighed, rolling his neck. You guys ever get tired of the tough guy act? Or is that like a species-wide trait? The Zurian hissed, lunging. Marcus grinned. The real fight was just beginning. Chapter 3. The tavern's dim interior reeked of stale ale and burnt stew, the air thick with murmurs and nervous glances. Lyra shoved through the crowd, her boots sticking to the ale-slick floorboards, until she reached the corner where old man Harlow lay, slumped over a crooked table. His gnarled fingers clutched a bloodied rag to his temple, his breath ragged. You look like death warmed over, Lyra said, dropping into the seat beside him. Harlow's milky eye flicked up, his lips curling into a grimace. And you got the charm of a gutter snipe. What do you want? The truth, she snapped. Who took the chest? And what? A wheezing laugh escaped him. Oh, it's not the who that should worry you, girl. It's the what. Elias, who'd finally caught up, leaned against the table, arms crossed. Enough riddles, Harlow. If there's trouble brewing, we need to know. Harlow's gaze darted to the door, as if expecting shadows to come alive. They called themselves the Crimson Hand. Fools. They think they can control it. Lyra's pulse spiked. Control what? The old man's voice dropped to a whisper. The relic. The thing inside that chest wasn't meant to be found, let alone used. A crash echoed from the bar as a drunkard toppled off his stool, sending tankards clattering. Harlow flinched, his knuckles whitening around the rag. They've already started the ritual. If they complete it, what? Lyra grabbed his arm. Spit it out. Ever heard of the Duskborn? Elias went pale. That's a children's tale. Monsters that feast on shadows? Come on. Harlow's laugh was hollow. Tell that to the corpses they'll leave behind. Lyra pushed back from the table, her mind racing. Where would they take it? They'd need somewhere isolated, somewhere old. The Blackthorn ruins, Elias groaned. Of course. You just had to bring that up earlier. Lyra shot him a glare. Guess we're taking that job after all. Harlow grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. You don't understand. If the Duskborn rise, they won't stop at Briarwood. They'll drown the whole world in night. Lyra pried his fingers off, her jaw set. Then we'll stop them before they get the chance. Elias rubbed his temples. Why do I always let you drag me into these things? Because you'd miss me if I didn't. She tossed him a grin before striding toward the door, the crowd parting like startled fish. Outside, the sun hung low, painting the streets in bloody hues. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled, though the sky was clear. Elias caught up, his voice tight. You realize we're probably going to die, right? Lyra adjusted her dagger's sheath, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Yeah, but what a way to go. The wind howled through the alleys, carrying the scent of damp earth and something sharper, something old. The ruins awaited, and so did whatever nightmare the Crimson Hand had unleashed. Chapter 4. The Blackthorn ruins loomed ahead, jagged spires of crumbling stone clawing at the twilight sky. A sickly green mist curled around the base of the ruins, pulsing faintly like a dying heartbeat. Lyra crouched behind a moss-covered boulder, her breath steady despite the cold dread coiling in her gut. Tell me again why we didn't bring torches? Elias whispered, squinting into the unnatural darkness ahead. Lyra shot him a look. Because we're not idiots. You really want to announce our arrival with a big, flaming "here we are"? Elias grumbled, patting the hilt of his sword for reassurance. Fine. But if something with too many teeth jumps out, I'm blaming you. A sudden rustle in the underbrush made them both freeze. A shadow detached itself from the trees, too tall, too thin, its limbs bending at impossible angles. It sniffed the air, then melted back into the gloom. Lyra's grip on her dagger tightened. That wasn't one of the Crimson Hand. No kidding, Elias breathed. That was something worse. They moved forward, every footfall deliberate, every breath measured. The ruins' entrance yawned before them, a gaping maw lined with cracked pillars. Flickering torchlights spilled from within, casting long, writhing shadows against the walls. Voici échoué d'Ust, urgent. The final incantation at moonrise. The Duskborn will rise, and the age of shadow will begin. A man's voice, fervent with fanaticism. Lyra and Elias exchange a glance. Moonrise. They had minutes, maybe less. She motioned toward a collapsed section of wall, offering a vantage point. They scrambled up, peering into the ruined hall below. A dozen figures in crimson robes stood in a circle, chanting as a gaunt man in ornate robes raised the relic, a twisted blackened shard that seemed to drink in the light. Elias swallowed hard. We can't take them all head on. Lyra's eyes gleamed. Who said anything about head on? She reached into her pack, pulling out a small, cloth-wrapped bundle. Elias blinked. Is that? Black powder, she said with a wicked grin. Courtesy of Harlow's other locked chest. You're insane. Insane and brilliant. She lit the fuse with a quick strike of flint, then hurled the bundle into the center of the room. The explosion rocked the ruins, sending robed figures sprawling. Smoke and debris filled the air, screams cutting through the chaos. Lyra didn't wait. She leapt down, dagger flashing as she charged the robed leader. You're too late, the man spat, clutching the relic to his chest. The ritual has already. Lyra's blade found his throat before he could finish. The relic clattered to the ground, its eerie glow flickering. Elias landed beside her, sword drawn, as the remaining cultists staggered to their feet. We've got company. Lyra snatched the relic, its surface burning cold against her skin. Then let's not keep them waiting. The ruins trembled. From the shadows, things began to stir. Pale, elongated forms with hollow eyes and grasping fingers. The Duskborn, and they were hungry. Elias backed toward the exit. New plan. We run. Now. Lyra didn't argue. They bolted, the ruins collapsing behind them as the Duskborn gave chase, their whispers slithering after them like a promise. The night wasn't over yet, and the relic in Lyra's hand? It was just getting started. Chapter 5. The alarms blared through the gladiator quarters like a wounded animal, red emergency lights painting the steel walls in bloody hues. Marcus was already on his feet when the door hissed open, revealing Dahlia with her plasma pistol drawn, her violet skin glistening with sweat. You've got about 30 seconds before Koratha's death squad turns you into scrap, she snapped, tossing him a stolen pulse rifle. Care to explain why the warlord just put a 1,000,000 credit bounty on your head? Marcus caught the weapon with one hand, checking the charge with practiced ease. Oh, you know how it is. Bosses get touchy when you quit without notice. Dahlia's eyes narrowed. Try again. A thunderous crash echoed down the corridor, the sound of armored boots kicking in doors. Marcus grabbed Dahlia's wrist, yanking her into a supply closet just as a squad of Zurian enforcers stormed past. The cramped space forced them chest to chest, her breath warm against his neck. "You're a terrible liar," she whispered. "And you're a terrible ally," he shot back. Yet here we are. Outside, a voice barked orders. "Find a human. Karath wants him alive, for 5 minutes at least." Dahlia's fingers tightened around her pistol. "Last chance, Riker." "What did you do?" Marcus hesitated, then tapped the hidden compartment on his forearm. A hologram flickered to life between them, a classified file labeled Project Reckoning, flashing his face beside strings of genetic code. Dahlia's breath hitched. "You're augmented." "Bingo." He smirked, but his eyes were hard. "Karatha's pet project. Faster, stronger, smarter, the perfect soldier. Right up until I started asking why they needed one." A shadow moved past the closet's slatted door. Dahlia pressed closer, her voice a blade's edge. "So, this was all a setup? You let them throw you into the arena just to get close to him? Worked, didn't it?" Another crash, closer this time. Marcus shoved the door open, firing a suppressing burst down the hall. "We can debate my life choices after we're not dead." Dahlia cursed but followed, her pistol singing as she picked off 2 Zurians with lethal precision. They sprinted toward a service lift, ducking behind a shattered mech for cover. "You realize this makes you the galaxy's most wanted lab rat, right?" She panted, ejecting a spent energy cell. Marcus grinned, reloading. "And here I thought you liked dangerous men." A plasma grenade skittered to their feet. "Move!" Dahlia tackled him sideways as the explosion shredded their cover, the concussive wave rattling their teeth. They rolled to their feet in unison, backs against the lift doors. The lead enforcer leveled his rifle. By order of Karath the Undying, Marcus shot him between the eyes. The lift doors hissed open. Dahlia hit the emergency ascent button, then whirled on Marcus. "If we live through this, I'm punching you." He wiped soot from his cheek, grinning. "Deal." As the lift lurched upward, the last thing they saw was the Enforcer's squad scrambling for reinforcements, and the first of Koratha's war mechs powering up in the hangar below. Chapter 6. The dim glow of the streetlights flickered as rain began to patter against the pavement, the rhythmic sound almost masking the tension in the air. Jake tightened his grip on the umbrella, his breath visible in the cold night. "You sure this is the place?" he muttered, eyeing the rundown building ahead. Lena scoffed, adjusting her leather jacket. "Would I drag you out here if I wasn't? Trust me, this is where we'll find him." She shot him a sideways glance, her smirk barely visible in the shadows. "Unless you're scared, of course." Jake rolled his eyes. "Yeah, terrified. It's not like we're breaking into a potential mob hideout or anything." "Relax," Lena said, nudging him with her elbow. "If things go south, I'll save your sorry butt." Again, before Jake could retort, a low whistle cut through the rain. A figure emerged from the alley, his hands tucked into his pockets. "Took you long enough," the man drawled, his voice rough. "Was starting to think you chickened out." Lena crossed her arms. "Nice to see you too, Marco. You got what we need." Marco smirked, pulling a small, weathered notebook from his coat. "Right here, but it's going to cost you extra. Risky business, you know." Jake stepped forward, his patience wearing thin. "We already paid you up front. Don't push your luck." Marco's grin faltered for a second before he recovered, tossing the notebook to Lena. Fine. No need to get testy. But you didn't hear it from me, got it? If the boss finds out I helped you." He trailed off, shaking his head. Lena flipped through the pages, her eyes scanning the contents. "This is it," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Everything we need to take them down." Jake leaned in, his shoulder brushing against hers. "Then what are we waiting for? Let's get moving before." A sudden crash echoed from the alleyway, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. Marco's face paled. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Lena shoved the notebook into her jacket, her eyes darting toward the noise. We've got company. Jake cursed under his breath. So much for a quiet night. 3 figures emerged from the darkness, their silhouettes menacing against the flickering light. The tallest one cracked his knuckles, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Well, look what we have here. Lena squared her shoulders, her voice dripping with defiance. You boys lost? We're just looking for a beating. The leader chuckled. Goo, hand over the notebook, and maybe we'll let you walk away. Jake exchanged a glance with Lena, a silent, understanding passing between them. Yeah, he said, cracking a grin of his own. Not gonna happen. The rain poured harder as the tension snapped like a wire. In the next moment, all hell broke loose. Lena ducked under a swinging fist, countering with a sharp elbow to the ribs. Jake, now would be a great time for that distraction. Jake didn't need telling twice. He grabbed a nearby trash can lid, hurling it at the nearest thug with a satisfying clang. How's that for a distraction? Marco, meanwhile, had already bolted down the street, his voice trailing behind him. Good luck, suckers. Lena rolled her eyes. Some help he was. She spun, delivering a swift kick to another attacker's knee. We need to get out of here. Jake nodded, grabbing her wrist. Then let's go. The two sprinted down the slick pavement, the shouts of their pursuers fading into the night. As they rounded a corner, Lena couldn't help but laugh breathlessly. Remind me why I keep teaming up with you? Jake shot her a grin. Because you'd be bored without me. She shook her head, but the smile didn't leave her face. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. The notebook was safe for now, but as the city lights blurred past them, one thing was clear. The real fight was just beginning. Chapter 7. The dim glow of the lanterns flickered against the cobblestone streets as Elias tightened his cloak, his breath visible in the cold night air. You sure this is the right place? He muttered, eyeing the shadowy alley ahead. Lena rolled her eyes, adjusting the strap of her satchel. Would I lead you into a trap? Please. If I wanted you dead, I'd have pushed you off the bridge yesterday when you wouldn't stop complaining about your boots. Elias scoffed. My boots are rotting, Lena. You complain too if your feet were swimming in rainwater. A low chuckle came from the darkness, and a figure stepped into the faint light. Arguing already? And here I thought you two were professionals. Kale crossed his arms, his smirk barely visible under his hood. Lena shot him a glare. We're delightful. Thank you. Now, did you find it or not? Kale's smirk faded as he nodded toward the alley. It's there, but it's guarded, and not by anything human. Elias groaned. Why is it never just a locked door? Why is it always the beast with glowing eyes or the cursed relic that whispers your darkest fears? Because where's the fun in that? Lena quipped, already moving forward. Come on, hero. Earn your pay. The trio crept deeper into the alley, the air growing thicker with the scent of damp stone and something metallic. A low growl rumbled from the shadows, and 2 glowing ember eyes locked onto them. Elias swallowed hard. Okay, new plan. We run. Too late. Kale muttered, drawing his blade as the creature lunged. The fight was a blur of claws and steel, Lena darting in and out with her daggers while Elias fumbled with his spellbook. Any day now, Elias, she shouted, barely dodging a swipe. I'm working on it, he snapped, finally finding the right page. With a sharp incantation, a burst of light erupted from his hands, sending the beast recoiling with a screech. Kale didn't hesitate. He drove his sword into the creature's side, and it collapsed with a final whimper. Silence fell, broken only by their ragged breaths. Lena wiped her blade clean, raising an eyebrow at Elias. Took you long enough. He glared. Next time, you try casting a spell mid-combat with a monster breathing down your neck. Kale knelt beside the creature, examining it. This wasn't natural. Someone sent it. Lena's smirk faded. The council? Or worse, Kale said grimly. We're running out of time. Elias sighed, rubbing his temples. Just once, I like a job that doesn't end with we're all probably going to die. Lena clapped him on the back, grinning. Where's the adventure in that? As they moved deeper into the alley, the weight of their mission settled over them. The final piece of the artifact lay ahead, and with it, the answers they'd been searching for. But the shadows seemed to whisper warnings, and for the first time, even Lena's confidence wavered. Something was coming, and it was far worse than any of them had imagined. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and as always, keep the last light burning.